welcome to the third episode of Wanderings and Wool Gathering. I'm your host, Foggy. With me, as always, T-Bags.
Hey, how's it going?
And JPP.
What up, what up?
What's going on tonight, fellas?
Not a whole lot. Happy to be here. This is what I look forward to all week, so I'm ready to get into it.
Yeah, same here. I've had a pretty busy week and was out in the heat yesterday filming a wedding with a buddy of mine and, kind of sweat myself to death and had this to look forward to. So I'm glad to be back in the AC and ready to chat about music.
Awesome. Speaking of music, let's get right to it. Last week, Tony issued a challenge. So, Tony, what was the challenge? And then let's get to it.
Yes. Okay. So the challenge was, I'm a big fan of like cover songs. And actually I told you, Steve, offline that this is the hardest challenge that I've had yet because I made myself narrow something down and I'm horribly indecisive. So anyway, the challenge is that we wanted to know what your favorite cover song is and then a song that you'd like to see covered and by who. So who wants to kick it off?
Well, based on JPP's silence, I think I'll take over. So,
Yeah.
I thought this week... Oh, Paul?
No, I was going to say, yeah, please take it away.
Okay. I thought maybe Alex Lifes and Neil Peart and Geddy Lee could cover something by Rush. That's one drink tonight, folks.
That's right.
Anyway, so this is kind of crazy because you issued this challenge, and I found this song after you issued the challenge.
Sweet.
To say it's my all-time favorite, I guess is, I don't know if it's going to stand the test of time. But Tony, I know you know that I've loved Jeff Buckley since the early 1990s. His voice, obviously, he's become the Hallelujah guy, even though obviously that was a cover of Leonard Cohen. But he has a song that a lot of people don't know called "Lover, You Should Have Come Over." It's an amazing song. Beautiful vocals, and I don't think many people sing as well as Buckley did. Obviously, he's passed now, but
Right.
Just something about him and his live performances were amazing. He truly was a talent. And recently, over the past couple of years, I've become a huge fan of Nothing But Thieves, and their lead singer, Connor Mason, to me, is probably the best voice I think maybe I've ever heard. And one of their most popular songs is Lover, Please Stay, which is interesting that both start with Lover, and it's kind of the same theme. But Connor is a huge fan of Jeff Buckley. He covered Lover, You Should Have Come Over, and I never thought I would hear another song by another person other than Buckley singing his music that was better. And Connor Mason just nails it. It is absolutely amazing, and I think that may be my favorite cover at this point of all time. So,
that's fantastic.
Yeah, it really is amazing, and I know we'll put that in the comments. Get a link to that song so everybody can check that out. That's pretty cool.
I'm glad we do that because I have not heard that yet, and I love Nothing But Thieves too. So very interested in that. Keep going.
Okay, you know what? Before I give what I want to hear, let's go over to Paul and hear what his favorite is.
I stewed on this for a while because there's just a ton of covers out there, and not to get in the weeds, but anytime you hear a cover, it's hit or miss. There's some that just really nail it and do a nice job of reinterpreting the song and making it kind of their own characteristic to that performer or band's signature sound. And there's those that just try to cover it verbatim, and it doesn't really take off for me. It just kind of feels a little lackluster in the big picture, I guess. But one of my favorite cover albums, actually, is For the Masses, where a handful of artists do Depeche Mode songs. And there's tons of great ones on there. And if I had to pick any one song that stood out to me the most, that took me by surprise, it was Mark Van Hoen doing A Master and Servant. Because you hear that song originally, it's a little more upbeat, it's kind of straight ahead, it just kind of barrels through. But Mark turned it into kind of this sultry bossa nova with a female vocalist acting as a duet in it too. So it just really made it a lot more sensual of a song, and it just is really rich and full of deeper meaning than when I heard it originally from Depeche Mode, essentially. And I thought that that was a prime example of somebody taking an original tune that went one direction and completely taking it into a whole another field and painting a picture that you never thought possible. So 2 thumbs up on that one for sure.
Yeah, and add a 3rd thumbs up for me because wow, that whole album is fantastic, and that truly is one of my favorite songs on there.
Yep.
So you and I have similar tastes on that kind of stuff, but that is fantastic. Yeah, you want me to jump in with mine because it kind of plays off that, and then go back to the next part of the challenge?
Sure.
Okay. I'm with Paul. Sometimes I think that if it's covered too closely, it's like, okay, that's great, but I like to see when there's a little bit more heart and soul put into it, like reimagining it somewhat. And there are definitely good covers out there. Like, I mean, if you haven't heard like Pucifer do Bohemian Rhapsody, or even that kids school that does 46 and 2, like those are fantastic covers. But for me, the 2 things that make a cover interesting are, 1, if it's completely different, and 2, if it's a pleasant surprise. So it's my challenge. I can cheat, so I cheated. And I'm teabags. Anyway, so really to be completely different, let me come back to that one because that's my favorite one. The one that's a pleasant surprise, there's a band called Over the Rhine out of Cincinnati, Ohio. Yeah. Very, cool little kind of folksy band that I got turned on to back in the Ball State days. And completely like not even knowing that it happened until I was notified about it. They covered Hurt by 9 Inch Nails with Kim Taylor, and there's like one live video and that's it, and it's only got like 2,000 views. It's almost like that gem that you find in the discount bin but you love it. And so there's that one was a surprise. But the completely different one, so I'm not belaboring this too long, is that when 9 Inch Nails covered Queen, Get Down Make Love, number one, it was done at a time where 9 Inch Nails wasn't even big yet, so it was just a risk that they wanted to take. This is how they saw it, and but at the same time, it added that same grittiness that I think happened, like what Paul was talking about with the Master and Servant. I feel like it served the song well. You can't take anything away from Queen. No one can outdo Freddie Mercury. But as far as the feel and the tone of the song, Get Down, Make Love off the Sin single was totally it for me.
I remember that. That was a great one. Yeah, absolutely. Well played.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, I know Over the Rhine, but I don't know that song, so well done. I'll have to look that up.
Thanks. Okay, well, you want to move us into who you think should cover what song, Steve?
Yeah, I'm going to be really lame because when I heard that song, I instantly went to what would happen if they did my favorite song of all time. And so I would like to see, it would be nothing but Thieves doing Mayonnaise from Smashing Pumpkins. I can't imagine what his vocals, Billy's got that whiny thing that works so well for him. And it works great for the Pumpkins, but with this crystal clear, beautiful voice, I can't imagine what he would do to Mayonnaise. So that would be my choice.
Oh, I'm voting for that. I would love to hear that too. Paul?
You guys both know my tastes are certainly, I won't say left of center, but a lot of times when I have conversations with people across the board, it's, what kind of music you into? And I list off some artists and they kind of scratch their head. I've never heard of them. But I know, Tony, you have the same taste as I do with this artist, Imogen Heap. Yes. I would love to hear her perform Lullaby by The Cure.
Oh, that's excellent.
Just because you know how she loves to play with sounds, and I think she would just do a fantastic job of A, singing, Robert Smith's lyrics, but B, just the orchestration that she would put behind it would be phenomenal.
Oh my gosh. You guys have great answers. I would go for both of those. Interesting note here. This is that we didn't even plan this, but Imogen Heap and Nothing But Thieves have both covered "Holding Out for a Hero" for a soundtrack.
Oh, no kidding.
Yes.
Wow.
So I think Imogen Heap was with Frou Frou doing it for Shrek, and Nothing But Thieves just did it recently, and I can't remember what the soundtrack's for, but it's on Spotify, and it's a great like melancholy version of it.
Yeah, I'm going to slap myself in the face
song.
too. I'm going to slap myself in the face only because I've watched Shrek with my daughter a handful of times recently, and I've heard that song, and I didn't realize.
Well, there you go.
Wow.
Paul, we do this podcast so people are educated. So
Even if it means we are educated.
exactly. Clearly, I have a lot of education that I need to have done to me. Okay, so I will jump in with mine. When I back to the Nine Inch Nails and Get Down, Make Love, like that served the song well. But I really liked when back in the day, I was totally taken aback by this, but Marilyn Manson covering Sweet Dreams, like that was that was one of those top moments for me. Like, oh my gosh, music can do this, and then I saw it live and it was even better. But so I was thinking, what song do I really, really love, but I would like to see like flipped on its head and take on a darker tone? So I was thinking that Kiss by Prince could be covered by Tool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just pictured it, and it was just like, huh, that interesting.
Yeah. I don't know how Maynard...
that can't possibly hold a candle to Tom Jones.
Hey, try the steak. Yeah.
That would be rad. I think, anything Maynard touches certainly takes a turn for a completely different direction. So I think that could become quite a creepy vibe if played correctly.
I would think so. But I really feel like, I hope somewhere down the line someone hears our podcast and can make one of our three suggestions happen, because they're all gold, I think.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Any final thoughts on this week's challenge?
Nope.
I've got one. I went through and listened to some stuff from previous cover songs and things, just trying to come up with an answer. And there was an album that I bought off of iTunes randomly a few years ago. It came out back in 2008. The artist's name is Adam. It's ADEM. The album's called Takes, and it's all covers. Stuff I've never heard before on there, but it's mostly acoustic and some interesting arrangements as well. He even does an Aphex Twin cover on there, which is pretty cool. It's fun. What song was it? To Cure a Weakling Child, actually. And it's kind of done in an indie folk vibe. So if you have a chance, we'll put a link in the show notes as well, but please check it out, because there's some really cool tunes on there.
Yeah,
That's
it's
great.
interesting you mentioned The Cure. On Instagram, Billy just mentioned recently that he's friends with Robert Smith and everything, and so I instantly went to, what if the Pumpkins had maybe covered like Love Song or Picture of You or something like that. I think would have been a cool choice as well.
Nice.
Yeah, I think we need to do a whole show on covers, because that leads me to that leads me to Diary of a Love Song, where for a Perfect Circle did a mashup of Love Song and Diary of a Madman.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I walked into the arena the first time I saw them, and that's what they were playing, and so sold.
Too cool.
But anyway, we could talk forever on covers.
Definitely. But this seems like a pretty good time to mention the winner of last week's challenge. We opened it up to anybody listening, and we did have a winner, Steve Meadows. He presented the Foo Fighters performing the Who's Young Men Blues. That was his favorite cover of all time. And then he would like to see Blind Melon's Toes Across the Floor performed by Chevelle. So he is our first winner of one of our contests. So congratulations to Steve Meadows. You've won a new car courtesy of Teabags. Oh, wait a minute. Card with a D. Sorry about that.
Thanks.
My bad.
Typo. Yes.
That's a big typo.
But $20 gift card to Amazon, sponsored by Small Giants. So we should keep something, info at wanderingsandwoolgatherings.com is somewhere you can send info to. So we'll make sure we get that card over to him.
Fantastic. Okay, so that brings us to what we have now promised for 2 weeks. No, it's not a new Rush album. There's another drink. And it's actually Aphex Twin. We've been talking about it now for 2 weeks. And the 5-song EP is officially out. We have listened, and we are ready to talk about it. And I think we'll kick it over to Paul, because you are the synth man, and this should be right up your alley. So, Paul, what'd you think?
Well, anything that Aphex Twin comes out with, I'm eager to listen to it. First off, what do you guys think of the song titles? Do you think they're catchy and easy to remember?
If you're a robot.
The first 44.
Yeah.
Hit singles, Abundance 10 Edit, Bracket 2R8s, FC 20, that kind of thing. And I think, pardon me, I think Richard D. James likes to name things based off of which take that he's done. Things get multiple run-throughs and performances to kind of massage and make the song the way he wants it and whatnot. But, given the history of Aphex Twin and even Analog Bubble Bath and some of the early days of his compositions, it's all very lengthy rhythm cycles. There's layers of sounds and tones that just kind of generate, and the rhythms are very complex and overlapping. When for the crowd out there, when I told Steve that it was up live for listening, he said, "I'll check it out when I mow the yard." I kind of replied something to the effect of, "May the line stay straight and your yard remain symmetrical while listening," just because that's kind of how the music goes.
Yeah.
With this, I kind of feel like he's taking a step towards the early days. Some of his more recent albums, back when I was in college, he came out with Drux, that was a 2 CD set, and it had textured piano pieces and some real, I guess for lack of a better way to say it, lovely compositions, just kind of moody melodic pieces mixed with aggressive drums and gritty little vocal samples here and there. There's one where he mentions, "I'm in control of the drum machine," and just kind of showing people that, hey, he's the king when it comes to doing some crazy stuff. But this just kind of plays on rhythms and just goes and develops and continues on. And I think that each song tends to have its own kind of set of themes, and it just plays off of those. And there's not really a consistency where the album, the EP rather, sounds like one continuous take. It definitely sounds like each song is its own unique character, and he just plays on all of those. The first track, T69 Collapse, if you've seen the video, you know that the video plays with the rhythm and actually moves to the pulsating beats. As it goes into the second section, there's certainly a lot of crazy like speed ups and slow downs and things like that. And that's just how he rolls. He loves to really play with gestures across the board. And for those that like a catchy rhythm and, a little beat to tap their toes to, this is going to be an acquired taste. But, if you want to try something different and really get into some electronic music that steps outside of the fold of just dancing, then I highly recommend it.
Yeah. That's Paul. He's a synth man for sure. And I'm sure, Paul, you could probably even dive in and talk about like what he's using and stuff like that. So I think at some point in time we do need to bring your expertise in on things like that.
Totally. I tried to hold back because I already went long enough.
I know it's tough. I feel like we could talk forever on these things. So before I jump in, Paul, what is your rating out of 5?
I'm going to give it a 4. And the only reason I give it a 4 is because I felt like when I was listening to it, I did find myself getting a little distracted. And it's not because the stuff's terrible, but I just felt like some of the stuff started, the cycles and the themes just kind of started to play along a little longer. And, maybe it's just my attention span. The songs average 5 to 6 minutes. So, it's certainly tunes that don't play the 2-minute radio friendly vibe for sure, but I don't know if that's me, and if I just need to give it a few more listens and kind of pick segments that stand out over the last cycle and things like that. But it's still great, and it's always fun to hear him come out with something new, and especially in the world where there's a lot of things that sound very similar.
Yeah. Okay. I'll make mine quick. I mean, I love Aphex Twin. But, full disclosure, it's like probably just I dabble in Aphex Twin, like totally appreciate what he does. And he's been around for a long time, and he's the king of his style. But it's not always something I go to. So it was refreshing though to get a new EP from him and listen to the new music. Loved the video. I think that was such a cool way of like blending, like modern glitch art with VR looking stuff. And the song fit really well with that. So that was perfect, and that was a good lead off. I'm just going to go down the run real quick. I tried to listen to it as one whole thing because I feel like after Steve was talking about playlists and artists are putting things out, I do feel like I should give it its due and listen to it straight through. So on that first 44, it reminded me of two things. One, you need to wear headphones when you're listening to Aphex Twin because you're not going to get the tones or the panning and all that stuff out of cheap equipment. And then it also sounds like being inside of a Tron game if the battle was based on head spinning on cardboard. So, which, obviously that's a good thing. I love that. Mm-hmm. Then it went into whatever that is, MT1T29R2. And I liked it. I liked how it started off. Good droning sounds and things like that. But I was with you, Paul. Like by the third song in, I was kind of starting to be like, okay, where's a break for me? My mind wanted to break. So there was a little bit around the 340-ish mark of a good sound. But throwing back to one of his other albums, there's a track called Avril 14 or something like that. Avril 13. Yeah. Very like different from all of this stuff, just very soft ambient, and I feel like this would have been a good place to bring that in. Anything that just broke up that stuff, because then moving on, Abundance, which by itself was a good song, but by the time being the fourth song of Aphex Twin, it was starting to get repetitive to me. The last song, how do you pronounce that? Aphex. I don't know. Yeah. It's I liked that one. I did like that one a lot, and it had a vibe to me, like if someone was in the room watching Halloween on TV and someone else was watching like Battlestar Galactica on their iPad, and you're hearing both of those sounds at the same time. Had that kind of vibe, but I almost wish this track was in the middle just to give me that break. And but part of the art, I think, is that the artist needs to say, hey, this track goes here, this goes here, and that whole like track listing and how it flows. So I went by how he did it, and solid effort, but for me, it was a 3 out of 5.
Cool. I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of fell in line with Tony as far as the score of 3. And I did listen with headphones because I knew it was going to be important to get the full effect. I felt like a lot of the songs kind of felt the same. But the one that really stood out for me was Abundance. Mm-hmm. And it felt like, especially with the person coming in and making the comments, that it was almost a perfect soundtrack to a sci-fi fantasy movie. I could totally see that walking me through a movie, and I really dug that. So that was the song, I think, that stood out to me the most, other than Collapse, which, had the video accompanying that to begin with, which I thought was really cool. But, yeah, Abundance stood out. 3 out of 5. I don't have a lot to say. I think I just prefer more lyric-driven music. So for me, it's kind of a stretch to really get into this kind of music. I like it. I appreciate it. It's definitely not something that I would like to listen to all the time. But I think if you hit me with one of these songs here and there mixed throughout, I think I would love it. So as a whole, listening straight through a 3.
Okay. Cool. With Aphex Twin, hence the acquired taste. Some of the earlier stuff in the mid '90s, like "Come to Daddy," where it certainly had some popularity. That's where I think a lot of the crowd picked up on him, just because it was gritty. It did have a hook, and it had kind of some contemporary flair that stood out and brought him to the forefront, if you will. And then I feel like he as an artist certainly wants to do what he wants to do, and his evolution involves a lot of the technical aspect of it, and a lot of the gear, and just really creating something that makes sense for him. I mean, I don't know him personally, so I'm just kind of speculating, of course. But, I think there's sides of Richard D. James that many of us want. There's the Come to Daddy era where there's, something that has a hook and a vibe. And then there's those that definitely appreciate his ability to create something completely abstract and out of the norm too. So, we'll see what the future holds for him. Hopefully he'll do some of both sides and kind of keep playing on either side of the coin, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, and I hope no one takes the 3 out of 5 as us thinking that we underappreciate him. I mean, the dude's got talent for days. I mean, I just, like Steve said, it's one of those things where, if I listen to it, I'm listening to it and I love it. But to have it in front of me all the time is a little bit rough sometimes. But and like you said, Paul, I think, going back to how he maybe could mix both things, and not for anybody else, but for himself. But I think that a wider fan base would keep following him.
Yeah, totally.
Excellent.
So, Stevie, do you want to review, since you're a Smashing Pumpkins aficionado, and I know they released Silvery sometimes? Is that what's called?
Silvery sometimes, and then in parentheses, Ghosts.
Okay.
But Ghost is the word that appears in the song, so perhaps that's the most important part. Did anybody else listen to it? You had a chance to yet?
I did.
You did listen to it?
I did not.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Tony, did you like it?
Well, I loved it. I really did. But I don't know. I kind of want. I have thoughts on it, but I kind of want you to go first because this is your thing.
Well, I think they missed an opportunity. I think that should have been the song that they led with rather than Solara. They come back. The group's back together, obviously minus Darcy, but essentially the key components are back together. They're going on this huge tour. This song, which I liked far better than Solara, was the second song released, and it did not appear in concert, which also was interesting. I just like this one. I thought it was a little more melodic. I liked the lyrics better. It kind of felt like, to me, going back to the Machina days, or even when he did his project with Zwan, I thought it had that kind of a feel as well, which for me is a great thing because I love that album before they broke up. But I think they missed an opportunity. This should have been the song that they led with, and I think they would have. I think people would have embraced them returning far more than Solara, which I think came across as just kind of a generic rock song and didn't really grab that Pumpkin vibe nearly like this one does.
So this has not been played live that you know of?
Oh, I'm sure it has, but it didn't get in the concert that I saw.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously you nailed it. I think it is the better of the two songs. And I do think it hits in that era that you're talking about. I also think it throws back even further than that in a way. Like it kind of bridges something from even earlier into that Zwan phase. But it just seems solid to me. It didn't feel like, some people want to just go back and recreate, what did we do and how did we sound and how do we get that back out, It felt like it was inspired, and that they were clicking again as they did as a band, and this is what comes out when they do, So, I mean, I give it a 4.5 out of 5 because most of the times I will listen to something, and even if I'm appreciating it, there's just so much music out there, it doesn't get heavy rotation right away. And this kind of just got stuck in my playlist, and every time it comes up, it doesn't get skipped. And I'm a lyric guy too, and I feel like it's Billy's got some solid poetry, and I feel like that bled into this. So 4 out of 5, 4.5 out of 5 for me.
I would agree. I think that's a perfect score for it. I hope the rest of the EP comes out and it's as solid as this. And I really like following Jimmy Chamberlain on Instagram and Twitter. All his positives are all of his posts are so positive. And it just seems like the band is clicking. They're getting along. And I'm hoping that this is going to lead to some more music in the future. And as they, kind of bond together, maybe we can, hit that sweet spot like we did back in the day. I hope so. So
totally.
All right.
Yeah. Paul, were you a Pumpkins fan? Just real quick. I know you didn't review the song, but do you like Smashing Pumpkins?
Yeah. And this one just kind of slipped under my radar. I missed it. So I will definitely give it a listen and give a quick blurb next week. But when I was working in the record stores back in the day, Melancholy was the album that was flying off the shelves. And I sold, many copies, and actually I probably had 2 or 3 of my own where, wore the CDs out and they got scratched slipping out of the case and in between the seats of the car and that kind of thing. So, I've always respected the songwriting, the guitar sounds, the whole gamut. It's I'm glad to see that they're back, and kind of based off what Steve's saying with the dynamics and the vibe that he's hearing, it'd be nice to see that this lasts a while.
For sure.
Excellent. Speaking of a while, the Eminem MGK relationship seems like that's been going pretty smoothly. So you guys want to weigh in a little bit? Eminem came back with Killshot. His response to MGK's response to his. So this could go on for a while. Who knows? But what do you guys think of this response?
Yeah, I have so much to say about this. I will try to keep it brief, but I've spoken with both of you guys about this, but I came up through that whole East Coast, West Coast thing with Pac and Biggie and all that stuff. So, diss tracks and rap battles and things like that. Like, I mean, this is what America does. We like this kind of stuff, right? We don't want to see people get killed over it, but this has been an interesting one because this was almost like, the kid trying to overthrow the dad type thing, but you're going against Eminem. And at first this diss track called Killshot, it seemed to me like M was holding back a little bit at first. And I think he still is. I think he's got some more stuff in his back pocket just in case one more comes out. But the more that I got into it, and I have spent way too many hours like watching reactions and reading stuff and listening to the song over and over and over again, but it is layered. There are so many things in this. Steve, do you remember the line where he says that's the only time you hold still?
Yes.
Well, people were saying too, like, that's M playing on words. That's the only time you hold steel, like a gun, and not just still. And then when he's talking about, like, I don't know if you caught that, but when he's talking about, like, the only thing that's changed the locks, and before I do this diss, I'm going to give Jade a kiss from the locks, and the Eminem's locks have changed from blonde to brown. I mean, there's just, you can go through every single line almost, and he's either addressing something directly that MGK said, or he's dissing him on his own, and in a way that only M can do. So, man, I don't even know where to... I don't know where to start this. I don't know where to end it. So I'm just going to say, like, also the whole idea that he brought Diddy into this. Now at the end, and we talked about this through text, but at the end when he says, I'm just kidding, I love you. He says that twice in other songs. He says it in Kill You. He says, I'm just playing, ladies, I love you. And he also says, just kidding, America, I love you, in White America. Both times in songs where he clearly doesn't give a crap about anything, So it's the most sarcastic, like, just kidding, in my opinion. And the reason that I think that bringing Diddy into this isn't necessarily a bad thing is Diddy had to sign off on MGK doing this, That's his boss. And if anybody knows where rap beefs can lead, it's Diddy. And so he gave the green light for this video to be made, and that's what Eminem references to in his comeback. But so I think that he's fair game in that, you know what I mean? He could have said, no, we're not doing that. This is not the path we're going to take. But he let MGK go. And in my opinion, as much as I thought this was a little bit softer of a track than I thought he was going to get, it still should shut him down, even though MGK came back and said that he thinks it's trash in so many words or emoticons or whatever. But anyway, what do you think, Steve? Because I know you're big on this stuff too.
Ditto. No, you're dead on. And just, he's got those clever things, but then, he comes back with just straight up funny lines about I'd rather be an 80-year-old me than 20-year-old you.
Right.
Just little slaps to the face. And I thought one of the things that was so smart is, prior to this one, when MGK came at him and talks about his bad albums that he had and talks about how he hasn't been good since he got sober and all that kind of stuff. Well, Eminem admits he's had 3 bad albums. Right. He just takes the power away from him. You know, I mean, if he admits it, well, I can't use it anymore because it doesn't hurt him. So what does he have now to come back with? So I don't know. It's just Eminem being super smart again.
And I think, unfortunately, MGK thinks that like 8 Mile is just like a fiction film. And of course, there's embellishments taken, but Eminem came up doing those rap battles, and it obviously probably wasn't the exact raps that happened, but the idea that he will say what he wants to say, that he'll win a crowd over, and he'll go to any lengths to win and take away, like you just said, okay, calling me old. Well, I'm 45 and I'm still selling more than you, and saying, hey, dad's not mad, son, I mean, just like, what are you going to do? But I think where he really wins, and then I'll try to shut up as much as possible, but I think where he really wins is you cannot compete with Eminem style-wise. I went back and listened to MGK, which I liked his track when he put it out of Rap Devil, but it was pretty much the same style the whole way through and not as clever. And then you wait for M to come back, and then you're like, oh yeah, that's why he is the king, because not only do the words mean something, but the flow changes, the tone changes, the voice changes, everything. He can do whatever he wants, in my opinion, I think.
Yeah,
so Paul, follow that up.
Yeah, as an expert in this field, let me tell you, it's like it's funny because here I am with Aphex Twin, and then I get to Eminem, and I'm like, all right, I'm just going to sit silently. I listened to the track, and I thought it was very clever the way things came back around too. Of course, you have your face value jabs about you're named after a gun, but you have a man bun and things like that. And I was watching 8 Mile on my Nordic track. I just felt like you said, as I'm becoming more open to the world of Eminem and what he's able to do, you hit it on the head. MGK's track definitely was very linear, consistent flow. Eminem even calls him out for the auto-tune segments, which is, something that's always been a peeve of mine. I mean, that turns me into a crotchety old man. It's just not a sound that I'm a fan of, and I don't use it. Although I like vocoder, that's a topic for another year. But what M did was exactly right. Like, there was certain flows, there was certain voices, and it turned into a story with multiple characters telling that story. And I felt like he was just putting all these different perspectives into one cohesive thought. So, that said, that's kind of where he wins to me as well, is because of the fact that not only can he, create a rebuttal, but he can tell it from a lot of different sides. So, I was really impressed.
Yeah, me too. And I think it's the better song, actually. Like, if I I didn't care about the words, if I had to listen to them, I would listen to M's over MGK's, I think. But, so here's my question to you guys, and then you can weigh in more if you want, or we can get off this topic. But do you think that MGK responds again? And if so, does Eminem, should he respond again?
Man.
It's really weird. I thought when he first did it, and I think I even told you this, Tony, I thought it was so smart because the publicity that you get, they always say there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Right.
So instantly he was on everybody's tongue. I mean, everybody that is even aware of this is talking about it, and they're listening to him now. I mean, I'm sure that he got more listens for Rap Devil than anything else he's probably ever done.
True.
It just seemed like such a smart move in the beginning, but now, is he going to get buried?
Right.
I don't know, and it seems like I don't know what he comes back with, and maybe he'll come back with something super clever, but I can't imagine that M can't come back and counter just as effectively. So I'm afraid maybe he's bit off more than he can chew.
That's what I think so too. But yeah,
totally.
Because there's some line in there talking about he basically had to. He says you have to. I'm looking at the lyrics now. He says, "Give your life to be solidified," and basically like, hey, your name's going to be solidified in the books, but you're giving up your career, and then like Ja Rule did, So there's so much to dive into, and the internet has so many reaction videos on this. If you have a spare 18 hours, dive in. But I'm interested to see what happens. I don't know how long M should keep doing it. I mean, he's obviously getting listens too, but at some point in time, he's not going to benefit as much as MGK is.
So, well, let's get to the true, heart of the matter on the internet today. Richard Marx announced that he was working on a diss track about Kenny Loggins. That's on Twitter. So if you guys want to follow on that story, keep me posted. I'm looking forward to that.
Yes.
Well, speaking of that, Paul, that is next week's episode.
Yeah.
I'll be breaking down Richard Marx, and Tony will have Kenny Loggins. It's going to be fantastic.
Did Kenny Loggins, did he write Danger Zone?
Write or perform or both? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. But is he affiliated with Danger Zone?
Yes.
In any way? Okay.
Yes, I believe that is him.
Doesn't he love a rainy night?
I'm sure.
Oh, no, that was maybe something else.
I don't know, but anybody that can get their headspace into the Danger Zone, I think they're going to win. So,
Right.
Anyway, just my
Tony, I'm going to give you the last word on this whole Eminem thing, and then we are moving on to Paul's challenge before we find out what we're listening to.
Okay. I mean, I guess the last word I would say is probably, pull up the lyrics on Genius, watch the MGK video side by side, look how many times Eminem can pull something out. I mean, even when Paul said something about like the cheesy little lines about the man bun, well, that's right up top a counter to your beard's weird from MGK, and the fact that he was holding a shovel and M can bring that in and say you're digging your own grave. My last word is just encouraging everybody that doesn't mind a few curse words here and there to go in and check the response. That's it.
Boom.
Cool.
All right. Paul, you are up this week with the new challenge. So what is it going to be?
This is a challenge for myself too. So in music, we have eras, we have styles that last for decades. Classical music, things like that. You have your greats that are legendary, right? Mm-hmm. So you have, in pop and rock music, artists from the 50s, 60s, so on and so forth. So here's the thing. There are musicians that get interviewed all the time, and they will say, this particular artist or this band, this musician, this is the reason I do what I do. And, I'm trying to find a common response to that. Of course, the challenge is this. Take the Beatles out of the equation, because there's a lot of bands that say, if the Beatles didn't exist, we wouldn't have what we have today musically. Mm-hmm. What artist to you makes that type of impact on music today? Again, without the Beatles in mind. So, musician X played such a role in their era of music that you see it commonly in today's music, or you see that impact and how it kind of created that chain reaction, that butterfly effect. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I love it.
Now I'm confused, Paul. My head hurts. This is going to kill me this week.
Steve,
you realize I have to write
Loggins.
papers for my master's, right?
What's that? I'm sorry.
I said you realize I have to write essays for my master's.
Oh, no, I didn't. Well, this will be a good topic for your master's. Good luck.
Fantastic.
Steve's answer is Kenny Loggins.
Got it.
Just so you know. Yeah.
There will be no need for episode 4. We will skip directly to episode 5 and my new challenge.
Yes, after we unanimously decide on Kenny Loggins. No, Paul, that's a great challenge, and I won't reveal any details. But we were driving back from Southern Indiana today, and I was talking about just that topic in a different form. But so like my wheels have already been turning on that, and I can't wait to answer that one. That's a great one.
Cool.
I already have my answer. Not joking.
Sweet. Good.
Okay.
Awesome. We will get to that challenge next week. I cannot wait. But now, let's find out what everybody's listening to this week. Paul, what's on the playlist?
I have been going back in the rabbit hole from the late 90s, and I pulled up a project called Uncle, or UNKLE. It's DJ Shadow and James Lavelle. Their album Science Fiction. It's got a lot of really cool textured beats. Tom York makes an appearance, and there's some cameos in there and whatnot, some good vocals, some good hip-hop, and kind of some intermingling of various styles. But it's a nice gritty blast from the past.
Yeah, that's I remember Uncle, actually.
Does that stand for anything?
I don't know. You think I would go and take a look on the internet. Let me Google that for myself. But when it first came out, that was definitely pre, internet the way it is today, essentially. So I never really, looked into it. I liked the mystery of that. You know what I mean? Where you just kind of left it to the intrigue, and you could kind of interpret it for yourself. So maybe we'll know next week. We'll look it up.
Sounds good.
Cool. Tony?
Well, this whole Eminem thing kind of threw me into. I've been listening a lot to "Till I'm Gone" by Yellow Wolf, which I don't know if you've heard him or not, but he's great,
Yes.
and he's actually signed with M. And MGK mentions him about not being able to be on his track, so it's relevant. But I love that song "Till I'm Gone" anyway, which then led me down the rabbit hole to "Blasphemy" by Tupac when he was Machiavelli. Tupac died on September 13th of 1996, so this is his death month, and he obviously, speaking of people that kind of led the game and changed music a little bit, I think Tupac had a voice that will go on forever. So that's it. "Blasphemy" by Machiavelli and "Till I'm Gone" by Yellow Wolf.
Sweet.
Very good. I kind of was thinking about the challenge, and it led me to, I kept thinking, I want to find somebody. The song "Love Removal Machine" from the Cult kept coming back. So, of course, I went and started listening to that. So that took me back to 85. And then I remembered, oh, yeah, they had Dreamtime in 84. It was right after they were the Southern Death Cult, all that kind of stuff. I don't know if you guys have listened to it. Most of the people who know the Cult probably didn't pick up until, 90, 91, when they had, Sonic Temple came out. And that's when they got really popular. But the album Dreamtime from 1984 has some absolutely incredible songs, the Native American themes, songs like Spirit Walker. And another one that I almost thought of to be covered was Bad Medicine Waltz. I don't know if you've ever heard it, but
No.
Ian Astbury's voice on it is so good. So anyway,
Cool.
I've been listening to a lot of the Cult this week, mainly those two records.
Sweet.
Solid stuff. You guys should check it out if you haven't already.
Definitely.
I will definitely check that out.
And then to follow up, I just did a quick search while we were chatting here. It looks like the acronym for Uncle was more of a style than it was any kind of phonetic meaning or any kind of acronym. So they are also known as Uncle Sounds. So that wraps it up. We don't have to follow it up next week.
Okay.
Well, thank God. That was going to push us over the edge on time.
That's right. Good stuff.
Awesome. So I don't think we have anything specifically planned for next week. We got to dig in and find out what's being released. And Paul, where can we find you?
You can find me at justplainpaul.com, or if you go to the other places on the internet, such as Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, Just Plain Paul, all one word. I'm easy to find.
Awesome, Tony.
I am now accepting emails at Tony at wanderingsandwoolgatherings.com. Also accepting snail mail, smoke signals, and carrier pigeons.
Sweet. I just purchased.
Great. Thanks.
Did you get my carrier pigeon? I sent that last week.
Oh, sorry. I thought that was dinner. I'll go back and look for the note.
That's fresher than Blue Apron. Hey, so you can find me, Foggy's Pal, at Twitter and on Instagram, and writing, editing over at breakthefourth.com. So next week, look forward to our challenge from Paul and whatever else in the way of shenanigans we can come up with. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week.